Too long, didn't watch. The estimated sale date for these are late June of 2026. It's 35 cents per switch, and it's an immediate tactile bump. It's loud, but not ear-piercingly loud. From my tests and to my ears, there is no spring ping or crunch or leaf tick. And the pre-lube on the spring and the switch housing and stem is good enough so you don't have to mod these at all in terms of making them sound better, at least in my opinion. You might be wondering what I'm doing making switch reviews. Well, I'm also wondering that as well. No. Carl from Divinity, who is a good friend, reached out a while back asking if I was interested in giving feedback or thoughts and opinions about the HMX Saru V2s. Coincidentally, he also asked if I was able to, or if I was interested in making content for the Nuxeros craze. So because both the Sarus and the craze came at the same time, I've been making content for the craze, and I just finished with that, and I figured that I would make content for the Sarus. The quick disclaimer here, I got 100 HMX Saru V2s for free. Whenever I get something for free, whether it be when I was doing drop reviews, articles, whatnot, I always made it a point that if I couldn't avoid getting it for free, then I would buy the same exact item and give it away. That way, I don't technically get it for free, right? I mean, yeah, I get 100 of these for free, but I'm going to buy 100 Saru V2s when they go on sale, and I'm going to give them away at the next meetup that I go to, which is, I think it's the Minnesota meetup on the 29th of August. Carl didn't pay me to make any sort of content on the craze or the Saru V2s. He didn't ask me to make a public video. He simply asked me for my feedback. If you buy HMX Sarus, I'm not going to get a kickback out of it. I'm not getting any money when I make this video or as I made the sound test videos. And Carl has not told me what to say. So these words are my own. This is the very first time I'm doing a switch review. This might sound bad, but frankly, it's because I could care less in terms of switches. Now, as someone who's joined the hobby around 2017, but never bothered to get into the community until around 2020, 2021, once I figured out the switches that I enjoyed, I stopped looking for switches entirely. The reason being, one, I already found the switches that I enjoy. If I'm using a stiff plate, like an aluminum or carbon fiber, metal plate, brass, I like to use cherry MX reds or blacks. Sometimes cherry browns, but most of the time reds and blacks. If it's a softer plate, like plastic or PP or PC, I like to use KTT roses. And if it's a plateless build, I like to use cherry MX browns. So I use 3 switches. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see it. So I got my KTT roses, cherry browns, and in that big tub over there, I have my cherry reds. I figured out which switches I enjoyed. I understood that not every board is going to sound great with those 3 switches, regardless of combination I use. But I'm fine with that. My enjoyment does not come from researching or going after or buying the newest, latest, greatest switch. It's kind of like having black shirts and white shirts only in your wardrobe, right? You don't have decision paralysis. You either wear a black shirt or a white shirt. I don't have to worry about what switch I'm going to use because I just have 3 offerings. I don't hate new switches. It's just that I can't be bothered following the latest or greatest switch trends or trying out the newest switches. That's just me. But of course, when a friend asks, hey, can you give me feedback on this HMX Saru V2s? Of course I'll say yes. But let's get to the specs real quick. And this video will be a lot shorter than my other videos because I don't really have much to say. It's not an in-depth switch review. Like I'm not going to talk about the bumps, the type of bumps. This is a D bump or whatever. I'm not going to show you switch graphs. That's not my style. There are other people who do that, which are awesome, and they do awesome with those things. That's not me. I'm going to tell you what I like. I'm going to read through some specs, and I'm going to tell you any pros. I'm going to tell you any cons, notably either spring crunch or spring ping or sometimes leaf tick. And I'm going to put this in the video description as well. So whoever wrote this, Carl or Henry or somebody else at Divinity, stated that the original Saru V2s launched around 2021 And that was when short travel tactile switches were still rare. Now, the first time I ever encountered a switch that had a switch that the tactile bump happened almost immediately as soon as I pressed it, as soon as I pressed down on the stem, was last year at the Milwaukee meetup when I tried the Gateron Sillyworks Type R switches. And I loved them. These are ready out of the box, built for long sessions, pleasant and balanced sound. So I can attest to them being ready out of the box, because what I usually do with every single switch, or majority of the switches, is I spring swap. I lube the spring. I have lubed springs. I mainly use 22 millimeter single stage Gion springs, which I jar lube with GPL 105, or I use thick thock springs. I think it's 67.5 gram ones, which I also jar lube with GPL 105. Other switch modifications that I do is I like to lube the stem rails, left and right, with Krytox 205G0. When I did that to these switches, no perceptible sound difference. So in my opinion, if I'm lubing specifically for sound. I don't really care too much about feel in terms of lubing, but I'm lubing for sound. And if I can't distinguish a switch that I've lubed and a stock switch, I'm not going to lube them. So I agree with this. These are ready out of the box, in my opinion. You don't have to lube them because the pre-lube is already fine. It's actually better than fine. It's perfect. In my opinion, it's as good as my hand lube. I don't feel the need to spring swap them because I enjoy the current feel of the springs. Built for long sessions, I recorded 4 hours of pure typing with these, with the craze. That's just during sound tests. When I use the craze during work, I actually use these. So add on maybe another 40, 50 hours. 100% agree. Built for long sessions. I did not feel any finger fatigue when using these. Pleasant and balanced sound, not too sharp, not too hollow, just clean. I agree with this. This is my first HMX switch, and I know they are known to be somewhat loud, but they aren't too sharp or loud in my opinion. And it's a full sound. You know, it's not just high end. It's nice. It's a nice sound. But we'll go to the specs here. So PA12 nylon top, PA2 nylon bottom, palm stem, 20 millimeter stainless steel spring, actuation weight 48 plus or minus 5 gram variance, bottom out weight 52 plus or minus 5 gram variance. Pre-travel, total travel, modified factory, application lube, manufacturer HMX. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I know about force travel diagrams or the tactility letters. You know, what's a D bump, what's a B bump, whatever, letter bump, whatever. The great thing is these are not the prototype RON ones. So I did not face any ping. I did not face any issues, basically. Prototype round 2, these are not the round 2s. These are the final round / production units. So in my experience, the things that I dislike when it comes to switches, there's a difference between holding it up to your ear and hearing leaf tick, spring ping, or spring crunch, and actually putting it in a board and using it. Regardless of me holding it up to my ear or putting it in a board, no perceptible, in my opinion, spring ping, spring crunch, or leaf tick. So no issues for me. Those are the most significant issues, in my opinion, when it comes to switches. If you hear bad sounds, right? So there's no bad sounds with this in terms of spring or leaf. In terms of price, so these are basically 35 cents per switch before shipping. So they are cheaper than the Gateron Type Rs. I don't have any Gateron or Sillywork Type Rs on hand, so I can't do a sound comparison or a feel comparison. I just know that these are cheaper. But let's open this switch up. I have my little handy dandy digital microscope. So we'll switch to that view now. So you can see is that an M? It's a nice M, and then you see HMX. So let's take a look at the switch itself under the light, under the microscope. The reason why I am showing you the switch under the microscope is because I want to show you what the lube job looks like. Now, granted, I typed on these for many, many hours. I brought these to KeyCon, so other people typed on them for many, many hours. So perhaps stock right out of the box, right when you put them into a board, you might have a different experience than me. But once you use them for multiple hours, once the lube becomes more evenly spread out, I think you'll have a similar experience as me. So let's crack this open. And let's do it underneath the digital microscope. Oh, nice. Let's open this up. Let's take a look at where we can see the lube. So I can see the lube. I'm gonna use these grabbers here. So I see the lube. Oh, great. You can't really see it easily. All right, well, that sucks. Well, let's see if I can put it into focus. No. Kinda. Oh, you can see a little bit of a wetness. So where I see the lube is I see it on the front. I see it on the front of the stem in these two, let me get tweezers. These two stripe areas. I see it there. I see it there. So there's two lines of wetness, aka lube. I see on the stem rails, I see a very little bit on the side itself, but I see more on the outside of the switch. And then on the back, the same two stripes. Of course, on the other side, a little bit on the stem rail here, but mostly on the outside of the stem. In terms of the pole itself, I don't see any. Let's take a look at the spring. Let me feel the spring with my fingers. Yeah, it is either oiled or lubed or greased up. So these springs themselves, they have some sort of lubrication. And I'm looking at the bottom housing right now. Let me see if I can bring it to focus here with the digital microscope. Okay, so I'm looking at the bottom housing right now. The only parts where I see lube is the sides. You can see, oh, there you go. It's very clear to see. You can see the lube down there, as well as down there, and around the hole itself. You see that? So around the hole itself, not on the hole at all. Let's see, there is some lube applied to the leaf. So there and there. So there's some lube there as well. So I would say that this is lubed to a level where I could not, again, hear a perceptible difference when I tried to lube it myself. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing because if I can't make a distinction between a lubed switch that I lubed and a stock switch that already has lube on it, I'm not going to go through the effort of modding all my switches because I'm not going to hear it. It's not going to affect me. All this to say, we'll get to the end here. We'll recap everything. Maybe if I had received these switches during the round 1 or the round 2, I would be able to give you more cons, right? I would be able to say, hey, there's ping here, there's this, there's that. But luckily, Divinity already prototyped these enough to the point where I think they're ready for production. I think they're ready to be sold. And kudos to Divinity, kudos to whoever helped Divinity do that. I don't know who else Divinity reached out to. I think they just talked to HMX and they just went back and forth. But if somebody's out there that helped them for the round 1 and round 2 prototypes, good on you. The last thing I want to talk about is the tactility felt slightly different than version 2. Out of the box, the Switch still retained full tactility, but it felt slightly heavier at the top. After a break-in period and the targeted lube becoming more evenly distributed, the Switch reverted to original light full tactility from Prototype 2, except without the ping. When I took these out and I tested them right when they came out of the box, right when I put them into the craze, I thought they were a heavy tactile. You know, I could absolutely feel the bump, and I thought to myself, okay, this is a full tactile switch. It's a heavier tactile switch, especially at the top. It took a little more effort to push in, which I guess makes sense with the tactiles that have very little pre-travel, right? But I agree with the sentiment that once you use them enough, and once that lube that we saw gets caked around and gets more evenly distributed, now it's a lighter tactility, in my opinion. So I agree with this analysis. If you're looking for something that is on the louder side of things, not extremely loud, but on the lighter, on the brighter side of things in terms of sound signature, if you're looking for something that has an immediate or almost immediate tactile bump, something that has no spring ping, no spring crunch, no leaf tick, and something that's relatively cheap, 35 cents a switch, and also support your local vendor or just vendor in general, Divinity. Divinity has been awesome. Again, I'm not being paid to say this. But yeah, I would consider taking a look at these HMX Saru V2s. I'm a fan of them. As someone who only uses 3 switches, I'm definitely going to use more. This has actually replaced the 8 switches that I usually use in my sound test collection, right? Because I use KTT Roses, Cherry MX Reds, Gateron Milky Yellows, actually Gateron Yellows with a black bottom, and Geon Black Linears, the long pole ones. And then I use Cherry MX Browns. I use Everfree grayish tactiles. I use Geon, the white linears, the white tactiles. I mean, those are very loud. Those are very loud in my opinion. And I used to use Divinity Cookies and Cream tactiles, but these have replaced the Divinity Cookies and Cream tactiles, and I'm going to use them for every single sound test going forward. So I'm a big fan of these. A louder switch for sure. I guess not slightly. It's not ear screechingly or too loud in my opinion, but it is on the brighter side of things. No one's going to mistake these for quiet switches, right? But they're not crazy loud, which I know some people didn't like about HMX switches in general, but they're not crazy loud, right? Consider these. I love them a lot in the craze. And I'm not saying that it's going to sound amazing in every single board that you put in it, but I enjoyed them in the craze. I do not have any actual typing sounds in this video because I have a 4-hour long video of just HMX Saru V2s, which is also in the description, and I'll pop it up here on the screen as well. So if you want to listen to me typing using these, check out that video. But as always, I love you all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.